Hey guys, it's Danny. Today I have brand new orchids to show you. Finally, a new orchid haul. No, these are not it. These are my jewel orchids, which need to sit here for the moment. I'm rearranging. Still, yes, for the past I don't know how many months. I'm not happy with things yet, but I will be very soon and I'll show you, I promise. I don't know. I don't know why I cannot settle. So that's why these guys are here, but I think they look good in the picture. Anyway, back to the subject. Today, I just received my orchids that I purchased about 2 months ago. Well, kinda, not all of them. For those of you who don't know, postal services in my area don't really work all that well, so the only way for me to acquire new orchids from abroad, which is the only way I can acquire the orchids that I want, is to use courier services. And sadly, not all vendors or nurseries are willing to use couriers, even though I pay for the shipping and everything. So I have a very, very limited list of providers that I currently use. And the orchids I'm going to show you today are all coming from Orchid Man on eBay. Many of you guys already know him through my videos. He only ships to the EU, but he's kind enough to actually send them through courier. So to make everything worth it, I'm actually ordering one orchid now, another 2 orchids in 2 weeks, and so on and so forth until we manage to gather an entire box. Since the shipping is expensive anyway, I want to make sure that I fill that box, and that can take a few months. Plus, you know, all of the lockdowns and everything, we needed to wait for a moment where we could actually ship the orchids, and that moment is today. And I'm super excited because I have brand new species to show you. So before we start, I will link you down below to Orchid Man on eBay. Don't forget to give a like to this video if you end up enjoying it. It helps it out, helps with exposure, and why not subscribe? I post 3 times a week. So that said, on with the orchids. Alright, first off, we have the cutest little orchid ever. This is a Ornithocephalus powellii. Maya, I don't think I mispronounced it. Actually, I might have. Anyway, this little miniature orchid looks incredible. Looks like the tail of a peacock, doesn't it? Furthermore, the flowers are super pretty as well. They're a light green white type of a color, and they're supposed to be slightly fragrant as well. But I think the main attraction of the plant is actually the way the fan looks like. It has a very fleshy, succulent leaves, and in reality, it actually does look even better than the picture because it has a really pretty texture. Now, the roots are super cute as well. They're very, very, very fuzzy. I was considering, or actually I was convinced that I was gonna pot this orchid. These roots are so fuzzy and so cute. It so adds to the appeal of the orchid. So you know what? I got a little bit of an idea, but I want to show it to you because if I describe it, you might get the wrong idea. P.S. What I'm about to show you, I've already done, but this video has been recorded last week, so the project is well on the way. I just need to wait about a month just to make sure everything is okay, and I don't have unforeseen events happening. So growing orchids mounted in my area is not the most convenient way, really. Things will pretty much always suffer from hydration. However, recently I kind of discovered the cloches, the glass cloches, and here is my little miniature Cattleya, which grew so well in the summertime, but come winter, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Maybe it's a combination of the AC being too dry and the temperatures too low. It hated it. I almost lost it, but it's doing much, much better now. So what I do is I keep it under glass. I keep it in this cloche where humidity is very high. This is an orchid which loves high humidity, and I also keep it here in my Millsbo IKEA shelf. And this is not for humidity reasons, it's only for warmth reasons. Take a look at this. So we have how much? 46% humidity right now in this enclosure, and 41% in the greenhouse. Not a lot better. But the Millsbo cabinet makes sure that everything stays warm and out of touch for the birds, because you know what Maya did? She broke quite a few of my decorative pots. So having cloches on the outside, not a great idea. I'm sure my birds would destroy them in time, but having cloches in these types of environments, yes, please. So I'm thinking, what if I can actually keep this little orchid mounted and pendant like this because it already has the shape and it's pretty, under a glass cloche. In this way, I would not suffer so much from humidity. I'm good at just removing that bell and refreshing the air. Surprisingly enough, I don't actually have issues with mold in that cloche. I'm gonna keep an eye on things, but if I manage to make a low humid environment protected from my birds, that is, for a little miniature mounted orchid, that could look like a very, very decorative piece as well in a home, wouldn't it? So I'm thinking I want to keep this orchid like this, maybe on a little display. I'm gonna have to be creative about it. Maybe I'm gonna keep this ceramic mount. I don't know, I'm gonna see about it. Algae might be an issue. We're gonna see, but I'm willing to give it a go because it looks perfect, just like this. It's one of those very, very rare instances where I actually don't want to pot it. Things will get very, very warm under that cloche and in those cabinets, so I'm gonna talk about it a different time. This is not a cool grower. I stopped buying cool growing orchids. This one is supposed to be warmth tolerant. It can actually tolerate heat as well, so that's why I purchased it. Next up, an orchid that I have had in the past quite a few times, but I had some bad luck. This is Epidendrum, pseudoepidendrum, which means fake epidendrum. It is an epidendrum though. So I had this one a few times in the past. The first one that I had got terminated by spider mites when I didn't know how to handle them. The second one that I had was just not okay. It just withered off, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think it had some issues that were quite beyond my control. It did not look vigorous at all as well. These guys are magnets for spider mites, and I will venture to say that they are magnets for thrips as well. Hence why this one will stay pretty separated from the crowd. He will stay probably on the top of one of my IKEA shelves or something like that, pretty lonely. He's not gonna have a lot of friends because I want to decrease the chances of it being found by pests. If you have a traveling pest on a surface, it finds a plant, that's okay. But if the pest is traveling from plant to plant, it will also multiply. So it's not one pest finding a plant, it's about 1 million of them moving on from one plant to another. So that's the plan with this guy. He will be very far away from other things because I really, really want to grow him. He's one of the parents of the flamethrower, the René Marquez, which I love. She's in bloom at the moment. She's a joy to grow, very, very easy grower. So I'm surprised that one of her parents is so finicky, given the other parent is a Cattleya. But I refuse to believe that the René Marquez has mainly Cattleya genes because it looks like this guy with a different coloring. So it would be fun to just have its parent. That's why I decided to give it another go. And this one looks fabulous. That's why I purchased it. It looks happy, healthy. So I'm giving myself chances with it, unlike what I did in the past. But he will undergo some babying and some sheltering. Next up, another orchid that I used to have quite a long time ago. This is the Plectrelminthus. I totally got that wrong. This is a handwritten tag. You're gonna have the proper name in a tag on the screen. New orchids always take a little bit of time for me to get adjusted. Anyway, it's the caudatus, which I had in the past. He's a little seedling. I used to have a seedling that I lost. Again, withered off together with quite a few other orchids in that particular order that I did a few years ago. So again, I decided to give him another chance because theoretically he should do pretty well in my climate. He shouldn't be a very, very finicky orchid. The only thing is, yeah, it's gonna grow very, very slow, but the flowers are super pretty. I think it's worth it and I'm willing to wait. The good thing about having a big collection is that you can get distracted by many other orchids while you wait for the seedlings to grow up. Because this is the type of orchid which I don't know if you can find at a mature size, at least not very easily. And if you do, it might actually be quite costly. But young plants are really quite affordable. You just have to distract yourself because you're gonna wait quite a few years probably. But I'm okay with waiting. I say this now, I don't know. I think I'm okay with waiting, so definitely wanted to have it once again. Next up here we have a Phalaenopsis. It's one of the polychilous types. This is Phalaenopsis amboinensis, which I've always wanted to have. I also bought it once, but it was last year at the beginning of the pandemic. Ma's just flying around, knocking things over. She's a little menace, and if her little brain considers glass cloches good places to land, I don't want to have them in the greenhouse. So that's why I was saying I need to protect them. Oh no, don't look at the Gongora that way. don't do that. I need to get her. How about you sit with me for a little while, just so we make sure that you don't break anything. All right, so Phalaenopsis amboinensis. It has a bad reputation when it comes to fragrance, but the flowers are beautiful. So as I was saying, I did try to purchase it again. It was at the beginning of the pandemic, and the order actually was never shipped because we went into lockdown. And well, after we came out of the lockdown, I contacted the nursery to ship my order, and they said that they don't have the orchids anymore. They don't have the Phalaenopsis. They sold it. They sold my order. How about that? Anyway, so no, you're not having the buds on this one. Some of you guys have issues with cats eating plants. Maya's the worst. She doesn't want to eat them. She's very curious. And actually, when I'm not around, she's a very good bird. But when I'm here, I don't know what snaps in her little brain, but she wants to peck at everything. No. Sweet bird. Yeah, anyway, so now I do have the amboinensis, and I will place her, of course, in the Millsbow IKEA shelf, away from vicious little beaks. Yes. Next up, we have another Phalaenopsis. This is yet another one of those that I wanted to have for a lot of... No, honey. Next up, yet another Phalaenopsis, another one of those that I kind of wanted to have for a while. This is Phalaenopsis parishii. And no. No, that one definitely not. Okay, let me find a better place for little Maya. Let's see. Oh, do you want to take a bath? Okay, we'll see if that keeps her busy. So, Phalaenopsis parishii. I was thinking about the Dendrobium parishii. This one has beautiful tiny little flowers that I hear are fragrant. Actually, I read. And it's one of those species which actually is used quite a lot in hybridization as far as I know. And unlike the most typical species like the Schilleriana and Amabilis, this one creates tiny little flowers. They look a little bit like the mini mark, but it's not a parent of the mini mark. The lobie is. Anyway, though, it's a pretty popular and pretty iconic Phalaenopsis, which I really wanted to have. So I hope it does good for me. It looks really cute. I really like how the roots flatten. The Schilleriana does the same thing as well. I cannot say the same for most of the other typical Phalaenopsis I have, so it's a cute trait. Next up, I have two super pretty Paphiopedilums. First off is the Paphiopedilum wolterianum, which is so fun because the seller's name is actually Volter. Now in the listing, this one was actually in bloom, but that was quite a long time ago. Currently, it doesn't have the bloom anymore, which is okay. I see another fan which is almost mature, but in the picture in the listing, it looked like the flower was huge in comparison to the actual plant. And since I have to say, I really like paphs, especially when they're starting to do so well for me, I thought, well, what's another paph? I'm gonna have two of them. So this is the mottled-leafed one, which I thought the flower was huge. And this one, quite the, well, I wouldn't say the opposite, but it's different. This is Paphiopedilum helenae, and this is a miniature Paphiopedilum. It might actually grow a little larger than this. It looks kind of tiny, but it is considered quite a tiny paph, and again, it seems to have quite large flowers if you compare it to the orchid. But this one is a green-leafed paph, and small green-leafed paphs, pretty unheard of. Well, obviously not because I'm holding one, but in my collection, I only have huge green-leafed paphs. So this was a nice change. They look super pretty together, and I hope they will do okay because I love looking at paphs all year long. Even if they don't have blooms, I love the foliage, and I might try to make a more showy display for them. Since they're foliage orchids, they do deserve to be a little bit more in front in my shelves. They're currently on a very low shelf. They're not highlight orchids, so I'm taking advantage of that. But really, honestly, they look so good, they deserve to be a little bit pushed in front. Next up, here we have a Bulbophyllum. Because I love Bulbophyllums, I want more of them. This is Bulbophyllum violaceolabellum. Intriguing name, right? Well, take a look at this guy. It arrived on a piece of cork with such beautiful moss on it. I adore it. I've never seen such fluffy live moss. Here in my area, mosses really rare thing because it's so hot, and in the summer it's so dry. I don't know, maybe at the top of the mountains there are some mosses, but yeah, here in the gardens and on the streets, no. Mosses, what mosses? So what I intend to do is actually harvest this moss and try to keep it again under a cloche of sorts, or I don't know, I need to keep it very humid. Here in my conditions, even if I try to keep it like in a sort of self-watering system, it happens. It just happens to me that I don't get to it on time, even in self-watering. So I really want to keep this guy alive, and I'm really gonna try it, but definitely the Bulbophyllum is not gonna be kept hanging or actually mounted. My preferred way of growing Bulbophyllums is in shallow dishes with my technique with the moss and the layers and all of that, and they're doing great. That's the only way I can keep them hydrated. If you want me to make a video on it, do let me know in a comment down below. Maybe we can do a maintenance or repotting type of video with this orchid. Next up, here we have an orchid which again I had before together with the pseudoepidendrum, and together they had the same fate. This is the Epidendrum capricornum or capricornu, which looks so beautiful. I always wanted to have it. It just withered off, the one that I had. So I'm willing to try again. This is a totally different source. The other two orchids came from a different nursery, and it's been quite a few years. So I really don't think these guys are related to those ones that I had. So why not? I do want to give it another go because it's so beautiful. I absolutely adore this René Marquez shape, which is a typical epidendrum shape, actually. Even if you look at the stem fortianum, it's not a one-to-one, but it is a typical epidendrum shape. The long nose, looking a little bit like a horsey. That's how I see it. I love the shape of these flowers. So yeah, that's why I decided to try it again. And this one looks really good. And since we're on the subject of things that I want to try again and again and again, well, there will be a limit. Dendrobium victoria-reginae. Yet again, the one that I got last year, something was wrong with it. The moment that I received it, hey, it's declining, something's up, something is not right. So again, decided to try it and see if it will do better for me this time. This one, I have to say, I think it looks a little bit better. It's a lot greener. But again, these types of orchids do have a sensitivity to spider mites and other pests. They have very flimsy leaves, and I am very tempted to keep them away from the crowd. I do have some top shelves with orchids that I know are prone to insects. I have some specially created places. I didn't really just jump into it. I have plans, but yeah, I don't know. I hope it's gonna do okay now, because the first time that I had the victoria-reginae, when I was using not even a proper setup for it, I at least managed to get it to bloom. The problem started in summer due to dehydration, but that's a different story. So I know I can do better than what I had last year. That's why I purchased it again. Next up, shock and awe. It's a Cymbidium. This is Cymbidium tracyanum. Yeah, it's a baby Cymbidium, but I just loved the flowers. Let me tell you a fun fact about me and Cymbidiums. I might not talk about them too much because I didn't really have much of them, but I did an experiment. I have a few on the terrace. I let them outside all winter long just to see how they do. In sheltered conditions, they're supposed to be okay for this climate, outside all year round. Now, luckily this winter was pretty mild here, except for a few very cold spells, like a few days, which I see kind of affected them, but they're in bud. They will have flowers. I think I can do a little better. Maybe I'm gonna put them in a place a little bit more sheltered, because I see some of the flower spikes are not tall. They only have a few buds. So yeah, that definitely has to do with temperature, because I saw the change immediately. But hey, I'm getting better at it. So Cymbidiums are one of those orchids that are kind of okay outside all the time, which is great. But yeah, I really loved the flowers on this guy. I'm gonna have to wait for it a lot of time, but it's okay. Next orchid, it's another shock and awe type of moment, maybe for some of you. Do you know what this is? If you guessed Dendrobium, you're right, but which one? It's the unicum, you guys. And again, if you're confused and you're like, so what? This is one of the parents of the stardust. Yeah, of the Kiyomi and of the firefox, I think it's called. Yeah, those guys that produce keikis until they depleted themselves. And we always try to have them, but no can do. At some point, they just deplete. They don't grow okay. Well, those are the hybrids. This is the species. Does not look identical to them, but I think you can see the resemblance if I show you the picture. If I cannot have nice things, aka stardust, then I'm gonna have the next best thing, which arguably it's even better because it's the species. It's where it all started. I am curious, you guys. I don't see any keiki on this guy so far. I see some old flower spikes and maybe some bumps starting to... Oh, this is definitely a bump here. We might have blooms. Not my own doing, but I'm gonna take it. So yeah, I wanna try with the unicum because he really is beautiful. Honestly, not as showy as the stardust, but if this one at least does not produce keikis like there's no tomorrow, you know, I'm gonna be happy. The shock and awe moments continue. Do you know what this is? It's a Catasetum type. We're gonna get to the Catasetums. I have them. I'm not missing any opportunity to show you stuff. They're still okay, they're still around, but man, they're slightly frustrating. I'll get to it. Anyway, so this one is Monnierara Millenium Magic Witchcraft, which I already have. Yeah, I have another individual, but I want to replace that one. I will be donating the one that I have when I will be able to send orchids again. Now, I don't think the post offices actually accept too many destinations. It's still very weird, but I really wanted to start a new friendship with a new plant. That's why I purchased it. If you don't know about it, it's the famous black orchid, which is not actually black. It's a very dark purple, but it absolutely looks black if the sun doesn't hit it directly to just light up that color. It is beautiful like nothing else. Absolutely amazing plant, and if there's an orchid that I can go through all of the frustrations for, it's this one. So yeah, I'm hoping this one will like me, but again, it's one of those orchids that I will have to keep separately because their leaves are magnets for all sorts of pests here. Luckily, they're deciduous and they shed leaves every year, and I don't have to see the wounds of the past, but yeah, it's a struggle to maintain them nice looking. This one is worth it though, trust me. I have a video on my old one. I'll link you to it down below. All right, what's happening here? Well, it's one of the same orchid in 3 individuals. Okay, it's not the same orchid. It's 3 different varieties of the same orchid. This is the Cattleya intermedia, but I have the intermedia vinicolor, intermedia cerulean, and intermedia alba. Okay, why did I buy all of them? Well, I want to eliminate all of the potential Princess Jackie that are out there, and the intermedia is on the list. So I had the Harrisoniana in bloom. That wasn't related, in my opinion, fragrance-wise to the Princess Jackie. I also have the Lodi Gessi, which I'm eagerly awaiting for it to bloom to see if it has fragrance. I have the Valkyriana, again, waiting for it to bloom. And now I have 3 intermedias, which I want to see how they smell like, because if they smell like the Princess Jackie, mystery solved. Get the intermedia and you'll have beautiful fragrance. I have a suspicion it's not the intermedia that gives it its fragrance, but I had to try it. And since all of the 3 varieties were available, I thought how cute it would be to make a video on the intermedia and all of these varieties. There are a few more varieties which I don't have. It's one of those very iconic orchids that is the basis of hybridization. The variety Aquini, which is a pyloric one, is pretty much the sole ancestor of any, or most, let's say that, because I don't know for a fact, but it's just what I heard in a webinar. So the Aquini is the grandfather of most splash petal Cattleya hybrids out there. You see any hybrid that has splash petal or pyloria, it's an Aquini hybrid. And I checked all of the hybrids that I own, they all have the Aquini. The intermedia, actually, the Blue Nanta website doesn't tell you the variety that has been used, but they will all have the intermedia. And you just know it's the Aquini because there's no other pyloric in their parentage. So yeah, I thought the intermedia itself is a super important Cattleya orchid. I want to have it. I want to have all of the varieties. I used to have the Aquini. It had issues. I make this video sound like all orchids have issues. No, that's why I repurchased some of these, because in the vast hundreds of orchids that I have, yeah, there are a few which just happen to have genetical issues or other types of issues. But anyway, the intermedia is one of those very iconic orchids that I think deserves a place in my collection, and I think I want all of the varieties. What to do? That's why I have 3 of them. But what if, you guys, what if it has that fragrance? How cool would that be? I doubt it, but maybe I'm wrong. Oh man, it's really getting dark. Okay, the last orchid that I'm going to show you, it's a bonus orchid. I never get bonus orchids. I'm so happy. This is a cutting from a Papilionanthe teres, former Vanda teres. Would you say it's a Vanda? Maybe, maybe not. I actually have a hybrid that I had in bloom recently, and it has a few traits from the teres, but not as extreme. You can see this one looks like a stick. It's really interesting. I kind of always wanted to own one of these. It's not the prettiest thing, that's why I didn't purchase it up until now, but the flowers really do look amazing on this orchid. And hey, I have a little cutting, which is great. I am so thankful for the little bonus. I'm so happy. Now, this is one of those orchids which I know I will have issues hydrating because the roots at the bottom, not the best roots. The roots here are the ones which will absorb, but I don't pot orchids here. So yeah, I will have to be creative. Enough with the creativity. Sometimes, you know, I need a break. But anyway, very, very grateful to have it. And yeah, I'll find a way to make it easier for me and more comfortable. There are ways, but I don't want to mist it every day. I just don't have time. And realistically, it's not going to happen. So yeah, I'm going to have to find a way. But there you go. Really interesting Pendaceous orchid, right? Very grateful. Thank you so much for sending me a bonus plant. I really appreciate it. And that is about it for this orchid haul. I don't know when the next orchid haul will be. Yeah, probably in 6 months or something. Hey, what to do is the least of my worries, but at the end of the day, it actually is my livelihood. It really is. That's why I keep repeating the stuff that I'm incredibly grateful to these people, which I have 2 sources now. It's Volter from eBay and also Orchids Deluxe, which ship through courier to me. No other vendors. Some of them don't even ship to Cyprus anyway anymore. So yeah, it is what it is. If you know a vendor which can provide courier services to its customers, do let us know in a comment down below, especially within the EU. Leave me a comment because yeah, the downside is we cannot see new nurseries, do reviews, see their offers and things of the sorts. But you know, it is what it is. If you do know nurseries who can provide courier services, just let me know. Maybe some other people have issues with their postal services as well and will be willing to pay courier services for the orchids they want. I personally would. So yeah, that being said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!